once young and robust accused, now looking frail at 74 years old, Joseph D'Angelo was wheeled into the makeshift courtroom held at Sacramento State University to face the victims and the families he haunted. One victim was only 16 years old. D'Angelo started in 1975, sneaking into homes. Dozens of women, the details hard to hear.
Lauren Herzog and Wesley Shermantine were convicted of multiple murders, including Joanne and Cindy's deaths. Over the span of 15 years, they became known as the Speed Freak, committing crimes while abusing meth. In 2010, Lauren Herzog was paroled after an appeals court threw out his conviction. Investigators say shortly after, he died by suicide. Wesley Shermantine was sentenced to death and put on death row at San Quentin State Prison.
Developments out of Stockton. Police have made an arrest in connection to a string of that man, 43-year-old Wesley Brownlee of Stockton, the suspected serial responsible for 6 deadly shootings that began last year in Oakland. But the majority of took place in Stockton minutes, as we're finding out, from the suspect's home.
6 charges of 1 count of attempt. It's a departure from the 7 charges Brownlee originally faced, leaving out the April 16, 2021 shooting death of Mervyn Harmon in Oakland.
Gilley, the man convicted of a Stockton woman who had disappeared after leaving a bar, well, he was sentenced to life in prison.
The jury found him guilty for murdering 23-year-old Dalene Carlson. Gilley is charged with kidnapping and 23-year-old Dalene Carlson. They were last seen together at a bar, and after a 2-month search, her body was found in a cornfield in Escalon. She was shot.
Stockton's story starts long before modern crime headlines. Founded in 1849 during the Gold Rush era, the city grew into a major Central Valley hub because of its rivers, rail connections, and its role as a supply and shipping gateway for Northern California. Over time, Stockton became known for its working-class backbone, agriculture-driven commerce, and the steady movement of people chasing opportunity. It's also a city that has produced and shaped widely recognized talent and public figures. Stockton is tied to major names in combat sports, including the Diaz brothers, music and film, and influential civil rights and labor organizing connected to California's farm worker movement. In other words, Stockton has always carried a larger identity than outsiders sometimes assume. But like many American cities built on rapid growth and economic swings, it has also faced periods where violence and high-profile criminal cases have cast a long shadow. Stories so disturbing, so public, and so culturally sticky that they became part of how people talk about it.
Developments out of Stockton. Police have made an arrest in connection to a string of killings. That man, 43-year-old Wesley Brownlee of Stockton, the suspected serial killer, responsible for 6 deadly shootings that began last year in Oakland. But the majority of the took place in Stockton minutes, as we're finding out, from the suspect's home.
They caught him after he was leaving his Stockton home in the early hours on Saturday. He was in his car at the time, armed with a gun that police believe he used in all of the. We also believe, the police chief said over the weekend, that he was hunting for more victims. We are also learning that the suspect had a criminal history. He had 4 traffic infractions in the San Joaquin County area. The most recent one, he was pulled over back in May. And keep in mind, all 7 shootings, the first one happened last year, the most recent September 27th. So they were looking for this person as they pulled him over.
After almost 3 years of hearings and delays at the San Joaquin County Courthouse, the county's top prosecutor Thursday,
thank you all for coming,
finally feels that now
we are ready to proceed with the trial in this matter.
In the case against the accused Stockton serial killer Wesley Brownlee, the indictment presented in court Thursday includes 6 charges of murder and 1 count of attempted murder. It's a departure from the 7 murder charges Brownlee originally faced, leaving out the April 16, 2021 shooting death of Mervyn Harmon in Oakland. DA appearing to take a concession for now for a better chance at a trial in early 2026, but there is still one big challenge.
Court will reappoint Dr. Trombley.
Brownlee's mental competency is still under scrutiny. It's been the main cause of a nearly year-long delay in the case. The judge on Thursday reappointing a doctor to determine whether Brownlee is competent to stand trial.
Wesley Brownlee is a Stockton native who became the central figure in a serial shooting case that rattled the city in 2021-2022. A 43-year-old long-haul truck driver at the time of his arrest, He lived quietly in Stockton until a string of late-night shootings put the community on edge. Authorities allege Brownlee ambushed 7 people. In total, 6 men met their demise, and 1 woman who survived in what became known as the Stockton Serial Shootings. 5 of the deletions happened in Stockton between July and September 2022, and investigators also linked an April 2021 deletion in Oakland to the same pattern. Ballistics helped connect the incidents, and investigators noted the victims were not robbed and weren't believed to be targeted for gang ties, deepening the mystery and fear.
A special spot to me. This is not the place where I was almost murdered. This is the spot where I met Jesus. I turned and I looked, and then there was an individual pointing a weapon at me. Seriously, I thought, this is pure genius. Nobody's going to hear this. And as quick as he was here.
Brownlee was arrested on October 15, 2022, after police surveillance led to a traffic stop around. Officers said he was dressed in black, had a mask, and possessed a loaded handgun, adding to the belief he may have been preparing to strike again. In early 2023, a San Joaquin County grand jury indicted him on counts including 6 deletions and 1 attempted deletion. As of 2025, the case has not gone to trial. He remains in custody as Stockton continues to wait for resolution.
Lauren Herzog and Wesley Shermantine were convicted of multiple, including Joanne and Cindy's deaths. Over the span of 15 years, they became known as the Speed Freak, committing crimes while abusing meth. In 2010, Lauren Herzog was paroled after an appeals court threw out his conviction. Investigators say shortly after, he died by suicide. Wesley Shermantine was sentenced to death and put on death row at San Quentin State Prison. While on death row in 2012, Wesley provided a map to where the bodies were buried. Cindy's body was found in a ravine in Calaveras County, and Joanne's was found in a well in Linden, along with hundreds of other bones.
It was 2012 when the Sheriff's Department began digging in Linden looking for victims' remains of the so-called Speed Freak Wesley Shermantine and Lauren Herzog. They are accused of a meth-fueled crime spree, leaving more than 20 bodies buried. Sheriff-elect Pat Withrow tells KCRA3 he will reopen the cases of the Speed Freak to try to help families find closure. The remains of then 15-year-old Joanne Hobson was found in the well in Linden in 2012, along with the remains of 2 others. Hobson's mother says her daughter's remains were commingled with unknown victims, and she sued the Sheriff's Department. Today, the San Joaquin County Council told KCRA3 it is recommending approval of a $500,000 settlement.
Details in a case that gripped Northern California. 2 men known as the Speed Freak were convicted of 4 in the 80s and the 90s out of San Joaquin County, and they were suspected in the deaths of many others. So fast forward to tonight, the Sheriff's Office is asking for the public's help in identifying some items that were recovered from a well during an investigation that happened 10 years ago.
Childhood friends Wesley Shermantine Jr. and Lauren Herzog became known as the Speed Freak Slayers for a meth-fueled spree of violence tied to the 1980s and 1990s. Raised on the same street in Linden, just outside Stockton, the 2 grew up hunting and roaming the rural edges of San Joaquin County. As adults, heavy meth use and escalating brutality followed. Investigators believe they began deleting young, targeting both strangers and acquaintances, leaving a long trail of fear and unanswered disappearances across the Central Valley. The pair were convicted of 4 deletions, 3 committed together, but have long been suspected in many more. 2 of the most well-known victims connected to their story include Cindy Vanderheiden, who disappeared in 1998 after socializing with them, and Chevelle "Chevy" Wheeler, who vanished in 1985 after crossing paths with Shermantine. Their crimes weren't confined to the Stockton area. Herzog later described additional deletions in other parts of the West, adding to the case's notoriety. Their downfall came in 1999 when the Vanderheiden case was reopened. Blood evidence and a lengthy interrogation led Herzog to implicate both himself and Shermantine. Both were arrested and convicted. Shermantine was sentenced to death and sent to San Quentin, while Herzog initially received 78 years to life. But in 2004, Parts of Herzog's conviction were overturned after a court found issues with his confession. He later took a plea deal, received 14 years, and was paroled in 2010, sparking public outrage. The story took another grim turn in 2012 when Shermantine, still incarcerated, offered to reveal burial sites. As attention returned to the case, Herzog died by suicide while under strict supervision. Soon after, investigators searching a Linden property connected to Shermantine recovered hundreds of bone fragments, confirming that the horror extended beyond what had been proven in court.
Now the new charges tonight against a former cop accused of being one of the most notorious serial killers in this country. The so-called Golden State now charged with 8.
Police say he was living in this unassuming home in plain sight in Sacramento, one of the many California communities he's accused of terrorizing decades ago. And tonight investigators believe Joseph James DeAngelo, now 72, committed some of his most heinous crimes while he was a police officer.
Jaw-dropping revelation in California today. Prosecutors confident they have caught the Golden State Killer, his identity unknown for 40 years. The serial committed at least 12, more than 45, and more than 100 burglaries. At one point, police recording his voice in a phone call taunting a victim. He was mysteriously stopped after Michelle White's sister Janelle was in 1986. Crimes began in the late 70s and spread throughout Southern and Northern California. Investigators believe Joseph James DeAngelo was a police officer during some of his crimes before being fired for shoplifting.
Neighbors told reporters in DeAngelo's neighborhood today he kept to himself, but one described him as having a temper.
Today he commits all these crimes, and then all of a sudden, cold turkey after 86, he disappears. That's why we thought he was dead.
Dr. Peter Speth is a forensic pathologist, a medical expert in crime scene evidence, and he was the assistant medical examiner down in Ventura County in 1980 when Charlene and Lyman Smith were bludgeoned to death in their Ventura home.
Had they not had my duplicate kit, they would not have found DeAngelo. That is what I was told.
He says 38 years after the crime, Ventura County investigators rediscovered that kit.
And it's in pristine condition. Took that kit, one of the swabs, sent it off, got a complete DNA.
New name in this case, when he was arrested in 2018, Joseph James DeAngelo was living a seemingly normal life as a husband and father.
Joseph James DeAngelo, better known as the Golden State Slayer, was responsible for one of the most notorious serial crime sprees in U.S. history, and Stockton was among the cities affected. A former police officer, DeAngelo committed crimes across California in the 1970s and 1980s, earning different names in different regions, including the East, Area Grapist, and the original Night Stalker. By the time he was identified decades later, he had been linked to 13 deletions, at least 50 rapes, and more than 100 burglaries. In Stockton, investigators attributed 2 violent sexual assaults in the late 1970s to the East Area Grapist, bringing fear to San Joaquin County as residents realized the predator had reached their community. DeAngelo's method was calculated and terrifying. He stalked neighborhoods, broke into homes at night, and regularly targeted couples binding victims, threatening them, and leaving long-lasting trauma behind. For more than 40 years, he avoided capture, even as DNA tied cases together. In 2018, genetic genealogy helped investigators identify and arrest DeAngelo, who had been living quietly in suburban Sacramento. In 2020, he pleaded guilty to 13 counts of first-degree deletions and related kidnapping charges, while also admitting to numerous other crimes. He was sentenced to life without parole and remains incarcerated in California. DeAngelo's case remains infamous not only for its scale, but for how long he escaped justice, proof that a serial predator could terrorize an entire state, then disappear into ordinary life until science and persistence finally caught up with him.
Here it is, the 30-year-old felon Jeremy Meeks, one of several mugshots posted online by police in California showing men arrested on weapons charges. Now, this guy's eyes, lips, and chiseled face were a hit with the ladies, thousands of them posting comments on Facebook and Twitter.
Oh boy, some of the comments, Ashley says, what's he guilty of? First-degree sexiness? Erica says, they can lock me up anytime and throw away the key with him. And another comment does not agree, saying He may be good looking, but in the end, he's done the wrong thing.
Wow.
Stay behind bars.
Well, some people are shocked how quickly this photo has gone viral. Tell us what you think at atmfans.com.
I mean, maybe this could be the next Bachelor behind bars.
It's kind of an unexpected match.com for this guy. The police putting him up there for auction of sorts.
It was probably the best mugshot ever.
Not all notoriety comes from deletion cases. Jeremy Meeks became famous for something far stranger, a routine arrest that turned into an internet phenomenon. In 2014, Stockton police arrested the 30-year-old during a gang sweep for being a felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition, along with other related charges. Authorities also pointed to his prior criminal history and identified him as a member of the North Side Crips. In many ways, it was a typical arrest until his mugshot went public. When Stockton police posted Meeks' booking photo online, it went viral worldwide. His striking appearance sparked a wave of attention, and the nickname Hot Felon spread fast. Within days, the image had exploded across social media, drawing massive engagement and turning an unknown Stockton inmate into a global trending topic. While the internet debated his looks, the legal system moved forward. Meeks pleaded guilty to the weapons charge and was sentenced in federal court to 27 months. He served roughly 13 months and was released in March 2016. What made his case truly infamous is what happened next. Meeks stepped out of prison and into a modeling career, eventually walking runways and appearing at major fashion events.
Well, the identification of Dalene Carlson was made through her dental records, and now investigators will have to see how she was killed. And Finnegan's Bar was among the last places that Dalene Carlson was seen August 7th. Dalene Carlson was found in a cornfield off Lone Tree Road in Escalon. The body found while a tractor was harvesting corn for farmer Frank Rocha. Rocha remembers that the surrounding area was searched earlier by police, but without success. Jason Gilley was arrested by police a week after Carlson's disappearance and then released for lack of evidence. Namely, there was no body. Gilley still remains a person of interest. At his home, a family member said he would have no comment. In a search warrant affidavit, police say Gilley admitted driving south on Highway 99 and dropped Carlson at an unknown location. Now that a body has been found, police have taken a significant leap forward in the investigation.
Last known whereabouts of Dalene Carlson. She was last seen in August at Finnegan's Irish Pub on Pacific Avenue. Jason Gilley admits that he took Carlson to his home where they had, but he said they had an argument, and Gilley says he dropped Carlson off along Highway 99.
Detectives took the stand today testifying about their interviews with suspect Jason Gilley. They say he changed his story several times. Detectives say the first time he was questioned, he denied leaving a Stockton pub with Dalene Carlson, then changed his story, saying he took her to a store, then back to the pub. Then detectives say he changed his story again, saying he took her to his house where they drank and had
life in prison without the possibility of parole and another 25 years to life. That's what a San Joaquin County judge sentenced Jason Gilley for the kidnap and of Stockton newcomer Dalene Carlson.
Jason Gilley's case began as a missing person mystery and ended with one of Stockton's most infamous life sentences. In the summer of 2011, Gilley, then 27, met 23-year-old Dalene Carlson. They had only known each other about a week when Carlson went out on August 7, 2011. She was last seen at Finnegan's Bar and Grill in Stockton, telling friends she was leaving with Gilley. Surveillance later captured them at a grocery store, but after that, she disappeared. 2 months later, in October 2011, Carlson's body was found in a cornfield near Escalon. She had met her demise execution-style shot in the head and torso. Investigators quickly focused on Gilley as the last person seen with her, noting inconsistencies in his story, including a false alibi. He was arrested within weeks as the case tightened around him. In 2013, Gilley went to trial for first-degree deletion, with special circumstances alleged. Jurors convicted him of deletion and kidnapping. A grape allegation resulted in a mistrial. In November 2013, he was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, plus added time tied to the firearm use. The case gripped Stockton because it started with a public, hopeful search for a missing young woman and ended in a brutal discovery. The fact that Carlson had only recently met Gilley made the crime feel especially unsettling to the community, turning his name into a permanent symbol of betrayal and violence in the city's modern crime history. Taken together, these cases show why Stockton's most notorious criminal stories continue to reach far beyond San Joaquin County. Some became infamous because of patterned violence that left the public terrified and searching for answers. Others stood out because of how long justice took, how the legal system unfolded, or how media attention turned a local case into a national spectacle. But Stockton is not defined by its worst moments. It is a city with a deep history, real cultural influence, and communities that keep rebuilding after trauma. These stories matter because they reveal the tension between notoriety and resilience, how a place can produce famous names, endure painful chapters, and still move forward with its identity bigger than any one headline.